Okay, let's see how this goes. I think Twitch invalidated their API of some form because the tool I've been using for chat wasn't working again. Let's see if this is doing any better now. There we go. Okay, it's working again. Yeah, they invalidated tokens all over the place. So yeah, and I just tried to sign up for a different account, a different service, and there was a nice checkbox in there that was allow this service to manage your YouTube account. Like, no. What does manage my YouTube account entail? Right? Well, that's really bright today. Lower that a little bit. Lower that intensity. Okay. So, yeah, that was fun. Started journaling. As in the act of writing down what you're doing? or what? Every morning if something's bothering me, I'll write it in the journal. For me, that would be monthly, really, at the most. Gotcha. 3 things I want to get done that day. So it'll mostly be the latter. That's a very positive approach. I like that. It's something, say a good path. I got told I need to find more hours in the day to sleep. Seems like if I'm upset about something, I gotta get it out. So, afternoon rambling geek. And for some reason, Notepad can be an outlet. Oh, I'm trying to word how I'm trying to think about my words so I'm not getting overly personal. But fish from the sky and lands on a branch in the tree next to TV, waves and winging. Hi Merlin, how you doing? How's things? Mental health is something that is very important, and you should not hold stress and upset in. Finding an outlet is a useful thing to do. It will help you focus more. It will help all manner of other things. Productivity wise. You know, if you let yourself get upset and you keep it in, then things get harder, and then there's a reason why you're not doing something else, and it's kind of a cycle. And I always think that it's very good to make sure. Yeah, just gonna lurk and co-work if that's okay. That is absolutely fine, Merlin. I really do appreciate you coming hanging out. This is just the beginning of the stream. My apologies if it's a little heavy to start with, but this is part of what we do as well, right? It's not just about the setting a computer. It takes its toll. So, whatever you personally need to work that out is useful. For me, my stress relief is karate, right? So I'm struggling this week a little, working from home, trying to be there for dad. Guilt for being paid and not performing fully. Considering the work they get out of you, Rambling Geek, you should not feel guilty. Not do not. You should not feel guilty. You give 110% of yourself all the time. So a few hours here and there. I always think of employment as give and take, right? Okay, I might take a little bit more liberty at times than I probably should. But when you need me, I will buckle down and I will get that work done no matter what. So, and it will be done to a higher quality. So I think employers that are willing to flex like that are better off. The Notepad is helpful because I find my negative thoughts can easily travel in a circle, but they can't really do it in Notepad. Yeah, it's also easy to find yourself focused on those negatives, right? But they can't overtake you. Otherwise, again, I have some strong opinions on how to handle stress and stuff. And if I'm being honest, I'm currently being tested on those things. So I'm speaking from a place of experience right now. For some reason I always think I'm eating away from letting go. That's imposter syndrome kicking you. That's the worry that maybe you're not working hard enough, and I'm the same, especially recently, because I haven't been getting things done. at work recently. I've been doing things, but I've been held back by other things, and I do not like chasing other people to do their job, right? If I've asked them to do something, I expect them to come back to me and tell me when they've done that part, rather than me having to, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" Which is probably what's driving some of the things I'm putting in the platform, right? Um, it's very much um, a that path. But Jira's email reminders are key. Yeah. What do we do? Streamer mode. That's, I'm going to keep, every time I hear a bloop, I'm going to look over. I built a tool at my word to mostly automate the follow up. Yeah, and that's, I mean, we'll get to that point, right, with the platform. You know, I'll get to that point where I'm reviewing. Well, okay, what's a notification, and you know, anybody in the stream will get to look at that and decide, you know, how that should be. I do have some thoughts on. Oh, I've dealt with that. I've dealt with that person as well. The person who puts read receipts and everything because they're worried that you might, they need to be asked where you are with something, and they go, well, they read my email. Yeah, that's not uncommon, sadly. But I think any environment you work in, and those environments actually create a lot more stress, because those environments, those CYA, cover your behind, environments breed more, right? So if you as a developer are trying to get some work done, and you're sat there trying to get your job done, but someone's like, "Where are you with this?" And they're like, "Well, they didn't get that done in time." The next time you do it, you're going to be like, "Oh, well, I did my work, it's done," and it kind of breeds more hostility and stops a team from actually being a team. And I think that realistically, anything of this nature, anything software development wise, you really have to treat. Yeah, you have to be a team. If you're developing a product, you have to be a team, because it's just too big to do as one person. And I'm sure I will hit that point later on. Right. Okay. Let's get this running just to see where we were yesterday. So for anyone who hasn't actually joined the stream in a little while, or hasn't joined the stream before, what I'm working on here is my own agile management platform, right? And I call it a platform because it's not just a little piece of software, it's an entire workflow, or it's intended to be an entire workflow, right? I have some strong opinions on how that day to day goes, you know, like Thornity, and hello, by the way. You know, how notifications should be handled, how visibility of work should be handled. And what I want to focus on is that the developer should not be a reporting tool, right? The developer should not be saying, "I am here with this, I'm there with that. This is where that is. It's in release. It's in production." Right? The developer should not be spending their time doing that. And so my focus is primarily on the management tooling behind that, for visibility and notifications. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. My management has little patience for things being done properly. They're only interested in quick. Spend a lot of time firefighting because of this. That's not uncommon. That is pretty much the normal course for a lot of companies. And you know, I've worked for companies that software is secondary, and I've worked for companies where software is primary, right? In that, I mean, so I worked for a UK holiday operator. So the software was their reservation system, but they saw that as the secondary thing, right? Because their customers, their travel was the primary business model, right? The software just helped them do it, right? So they developed it in house. so the software there was, you know, if you made a mistake, it was, you know, it was called out, right? I've worked for companies that they're solely software development. You know, so that I worked for a company that did parking reservation in the UK, and bookings and insurance. Actually, off the same core software that I've worked in my previous job, but they branched in the early 80s. So and then again, yeah, then I've primarily worked for companies where software is the focus. But again, the customer, the money coming in is generally a driving factor. So, I mean, in 25 years, I've worked with 5 companies, and I have in every single one experienced the crunch of we need to get this done, right? We want to be agile, but we don't know about how to be agile effectively is kind of the norm for me. So it's not that they don't necessarily want to do things right. It's that they don't know how to make right seem like less time, because you can deliver software quickly, right? But if you're building on shaky ground, you keep delivering software quickly, it just keeps getting worse. So they don't see the benefit of taking time, spending longer doing something to improve the quality, because they're not going to realize the benefit, because most companies don't effectively track what happens after the software goes live as a time measure from what I've experienced so far. So they don't see the benefits in the future now. So it's hard. My hot take, that is not almost ever the case. So Thornity, you've actually been able to work in environments where you're able to yeah. I don't truly believe about it, but it's fair critique for some companies' application of it. Right. I work in an environment that used to operate in the firefighter mode all the time. We're trying to get away from that mentality. Luckily, the focus has always been to do it the best way you can do the first time. Not always the right way, but we try. And, you know, it's something that I always talk about, right? I would rather, I don't want to build fear into my software, right? I do not want to be scared to change something. So I very much focus on its ability to change quickly. I can write something fast once I get underway. And I mean, I hope at this point it's pretty obvious that I can move pretty fast when I want, when I need to in the software. There's a lot of moving parts, which is what takes the time. But you know, it's but it takes a lot of effort to build that sort of software. And if you're working with legacy systems, that's also a hard challenge. Bingo, spot on. Okay, cool, Thornty. Yeah. Defining what is rework seems important. We hit scaling issues later, which were absolutely awful. Everything will pass up to deployment and fail there. The 2 months of feature dev alpha. Nope, try again with whatever the bug is. And that's not a developer. Okay, it's slightly a developer problem, but that suggests that you do not have the infrastructure in place to validate a scale delivery, right? I'm delivering a piece of software right now that changes the overnight processes, right? And that conversation has to be had, and it has been had, right? Of we need to be able to test this. Here's what we're missing. Right? We know, like, when you're looking at a piece of software for a business, you know who you're targeting, right? So you target, let's say I'm releasing this software, right? I'm targeting, right now I'm targeting developers, or more product managers who are trying to do planning, right? That's my focus for this first path, right? What sort of numbers am I looking at, right? Well, I'm starting a product, so realistically, if I gain 100 users in the first 6 months, I'm winning. Am I going to hit scale issues with that? No, right? How long can I go without hitting issues? Well, I'm pretty confident I could go quite a while without hitting massive scale issues. If you're delivering a product that's actually already in place, you know your user base and you know the growth potential, and all those things have been kind of figured out anyway. So I think it's naive from the business perspective not to say, hey, here's where we're heading and here's how, here's our growth potential. So the developers can actually plan for that. For developing software for travel for reservation stuff. Okay, you don't know the volume that's going to come through, but you can get close. You can kind of guess that, you're not going to get a sudden insurge of 50,000 people booking travel reservations at the same time, or rather insurance or something like that, right? But I think that shows more of a failing on the testing infrastructure side, a little bit on the architecture side if it just collapsed, depending. So, but I mean, you don't hit everything, right? Not everything's a home run, as to use a baseball analogy. But yeah, a single manager does not represent all of management rushing. The big thing I've had to tweak in orgs I run is devs not understanding what drives their direct stakeholder, exec team, and the biz itself. Not always aligned, and they can run counter to each other. I just want to write code and then wonder why they have little impact and have this sense of needing to job hop for impact. That I think I've been in kind of several different positions. No. Thank you very much for the contribution. I appreciate it. And it looks like this is hitting home for a few people, right? We do have an active chat going on this, but as a developer, if you're just doing it as a job, right, and you just want to do work, then I can definitely see that approach being, I just want to code, so keep out my way, right? And but I do think that there's often walls placed where we end up with we end up with here's this feature we request, right? And developers don't push back because they're just assuming that that's a set requirements, right? Rather than it's a wish list or a request. And one of the things I did early in my career was like I was like, I want to talk to the client, and I actually did. Most of my first almost 10 years of development, I was actually talking to clients. When I moved to the US and I came to a company, I demanded to go out with the people who are using the software, right? Because I think that if you understand what people are doing with it and how it's because it sounds very self-centered, or not self-centered, like what's the right word? Like I'm searching to be a hero of some form. Like the right software can change someone's day, right? You've all dealt with software that is poor, and think about the mood it put you in, or the struggles you were having, or the anger it caused, right? Or just the general frustration, right? I doubt anybody in this chat has not experienced that sort of thing. So your software, whether a little or a lot, changes people's lives. And seeing that impact on the end customer can also bring that home. So I always argue for, let's look at how the users are using it. Talk to the users, right? whether it be, even if it's something simple like setting up user voice, but don't ignore what people are saying about your software. And you know, I've experienced so much dreaming in software where product management and teams are dreaming up features without ever validating that a user actually wants them, but they're not the people using the software. So yeah, I always argue for using something like user voice or something like that that captures input from the users, and allows developers to even review it, right? Look at, you know, and things like UI UX tools that monitor how people actually use things. That's a good education for developers as well, because this is a developer UI, right? My full intention for this is to get kind of the components coming together and then save up and actually present this to someone who is a UI UX expert, right? And hopefully pay them for an actual design, right? That is well thought out, that is focused on the use cases, that is focused on its usability, and then product test it, right? Put it in front of people and see what happens. And if you're in this stream, guess what? I'm going to be asking you to test it, because as well, you're developers, so from your perspective, you're going to look at it very different than anything else. PM wants X delivered to their perf eval to get a bonus increase. Their exit needs to win top bottom line to not get blamed and have the board on their ass. The biz usually wants to grow and isn't at all costs, but they're not given reasonable options in communication. They'll understand. Yeah, it's so Rambling Geek, you started quite a thing here, but you're not alone. The you know, realizing something quickly is the norm, but it's normally for a good reason. It's just the business doesn't understand software development. Even if the business overall is delivering software, at some point it gets to a point where they don't understand the software challenges. They don't understand the components, right? If you're a tiny company and the CTO is the person who created the software, there's a little bit more understanding. Better estimates can be given, and but also if that person is the creator of the software, they're invested. It's their baby as such, right? So they're going to be more defensive. So that can be even harder. But you know, it's normal. It's not abnormal that the company's like that. It's just what you've got to do is kind of figure out, can you make changes that fit within the same timeline and hold your standards higher. So, well, not really. My only path that I've found is to follow a different path and kind of get buy-in. Try and improve some of those practices. Try and increase the visibility. Remove the blame, right? But also, you know, just you know, it, I'm trying to. I'm struggling with how to word a more aggressive approach to doing it. Um, at some point, you're hired to be an expert, right? You're not hired to be um, a machine, right? So your expertise at some point have to come into there, and you know, you don't have to say, well, you know, the controllers are doing this, and this software's dated and it's old, blah 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 blah. Right? You need to, if you can, make a longer term plan of the improvements you would make and how you would make them, and what steps need to be taken, and the costs if they don't do them. For you, you're working with an older version of .NET. Well, there's some deprecation coming down the line, right? There's some instances where that is going to be a security hazard as well, or that's going to be, you know, it already is, I suppose, because it's already gone out of it's end of life. So there is some cost there that needs to be realized. Otherwise, the software will just stop working potentially, right? So you've got to kind of come up. I would personally take the approach of trying to come up with a stepped plan of how we're going to change things. And some of those things you might be able to do in your regular day-to-day development, right? Change, like, take a regular being, you might need to spend a few hours of your personal time to reorganize something, but that might save you in the long term, right? We know why, but getting it across to the 20% chance of crashing is way too high, depending on usage. 1 to 2% can be too high. We had 10k events go through lately. We only heard about the 1 to 2 failures. Yeah, that's but the failures are the things that get noticed if you're working in an environment that can do that. Well, I've had that. I've pushed something out and it works for months, and one edge case crashed it and asked, why did this happen? It was working. And the answer there is, we're investigating why that happened. We'll get back to you, and then you just do an analysis when you find it, right? But the simple fact is, no amount of, well, if we'd have done it this way is going to help, right? That will just anger people, because then they're like, well, we didn't do it that way, right? So you've got to work with what you've got. But I would personally take the approach of trying to come up with a stepped approach of how you're going to improve things. And I know a little bit more about your situation, obviously. So you might have a bit of a struggle there. Why there's so many failures? Oh, didn't we just push out thousands of these events? Yeah. I found that when talking to management about the do it now demands, I just try to explain the problems from your customer's perspective and try to be the customer's guardian in the project. Right, but you've also got to articulate that, right? And good morning, Cody Crossman. I apologize. I don't think I said good morning to you earlier on. I appreciate the conversation. I'm happy to have so many viewing here today. It's awesome. I like a bit of a discussion to start the day. Part of the answer to Ramaga's question is you have to educate the business people on how dev works. You're never gonna achieve that fully. You kind of need to get them used to some practices, though. Just saying no doesn't work. You have to give them options that can weigh the risk, and that's the entire Agile thing, right? It's, hey, you can have this now, or we could take a little longer and get this, or we could, you could move things around and we could achieve this or this on this, and give them options. Shigami, hi, welcome. Right, well, good morning. Hope you're well. I mean, it is a give take with the business side. The dev side is educate them on how things work. Well, so I think I put it in my original why I'm building this project, right? Thank you for the follow, Teddy Otieno. Teddy Otieno. Welcome. The business has a thing they need done. From them, they say, here, do this thing. PMs come back and say, we expect this will take 3 to 6 months. In an organization with PMs, etc. Obviously, the business goes, okay, let's do follow-ups, and when we get to 6 months, we expect to see something, right? In an agile environment, what's happening is that estimate is changing over time. It might get quicker, it might get slower, right? You're kind of working in that and trying to achieve what you're going to do. right? But from the business perspective, they don't see, they're not looking inside the watch. They're just seeing the hands ticking. They're seeing things. They're seeing money go out because they're paying people for a job, and they're seeing, hopefully, customers being happy and progress happening. So they're just seeing time passing. They're not looking at all the little mechanics of the watch underneath, how that's doing its thing. So at 6 months, they're like, "Where's our software?" Right? They don't care if a handler was throwing an exception. They don't care if a UI component wasn't working. Right? So for you as a developer, or for you as a development team, it's kind of on you to make sure you say, hey, here's the risks involved in doing this. Here's why we need this. Oh, we need this investment because this tool set is now deprecated, right? Right, and I think Thornity, like we were saying before, right? I think that having developers more aware of how the business works and how the customers do their job is definitely beneficial. I think that developers, some developers you don't necessarily want to sit in front of people, but I think that developers should be given the chance to invest, or be more invested in the software because they care about what's happening with it, right? Too much software is written from a just get it done. And I apologize, I did that yesterday though. I agree, you have to educate people on what you do. For each department I work with in the business, I find one person that has enough of a technical background, and I tell them basically everything I do and be as technical as I can be without overwhelming them. That person sort of becomes my champion in that department. The person in turn teaches me about what they do day to day, which is helpful. Yeah, that's not a bad way of doing it. Yeah. So for anyone new joining the stream, new followers, new members, this is just one aspect of this stream, right? I love having discussions like this because it's helpful for other developers to see and to talk about these problems from their perspective. So you're more than welcome to join in. You're more than welcome to take something from it. But it is an aspect of the stream that I enjoy doing. It's so good to have people who have experience and expertise in there, because if you're a newcomer to software development, you are often presented with challenges that you might not understand, and having these perspectives could help. So I think it's definitely valuable. But feel free to contribute, not contribute, whatever. The software that I'm building is an agile project management tool. And how I say that is, I am aiming at producing a piece of software similar to Jira, if you've seen it, in terms of you need to track work that needs to be done, right? So that's kind of what I'm focused on. And right now I'm focusing on the UI aspects of it, but I'm focusing on the planning aspect, right? So I have an idea of breaking this up into 3 different areas. Ticketing, which is information coming from customers. I have a bug, I have a problem, etc. Tracking those things. Planning, which is an interim step that doesn't normally get broken out by the software. And planning is very much focused on gathering information and collecting that information in a meaningful form to then create stories later on for developers. So a ticket can become a planning item, and a planning item can create many stories. And I have this concept, and that's what I'm building. Malvi, good morning or good day. Are you using an ORM? Yes, I'm using Entity Framework. Sometimes when departments explain to me what they do, I realize we should automate that department. Oftentimes, if you look at what other people do, you realize that certain jobs could be handled by a computer, but doesn't mean they will be. That's a department with 20 plus people in it, and a similar company that had 3 people do the accounting. One of these things is not like the other. Yeah. I'd like to think that if I became an organization and I was developing software, that I would be okay with hiring people and accepting that the money isn't flowing quite as fast because people have jobs. But at the end of the day, you also need to make sure that A business is a business, and the jobs that are there are protected. So I get the both sides of that coin. I mean, pointing out, do they really need 20 people? Unpopular move, and I like seeing people employed. Yeah, yeah. A quick review of staffing. Which icons will we be using here? This is, I think actually these are not an actual library. I think this is Tailwind that I'm using. So full disclosure, the front end is my weak point, right? So I'm kind of getting back into using Angular. I'm using GraphQL. I'm actually using NGRX and signalStores for the first time here. So there's some new technologies on my plate. But I believe, let me have a look. Layout, that's where it is. Layout, default. Yeah, I think these are all SVGs. Yeah, these are all just SVGs right now. So wherever they've been pulled from. Actually, I think Tailwind has icons, right? Tailwind icons. There's a hero icons. Where are you? Here you go. Yeah, it's these. So this will be the library. Because you copy the SVG and paste it into the actual code. So there you go. So, okay. So yeah, Mulvey, I'm using Entity Framework in here, Entity Framework Core, being very specific. I am building my context, etc. So, oh yeah, it's much cleaner. SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. Self-hosted right now. All of this is self-hosted because I'm developing it. Ultimately, one of the things I'm going to look at is how I deploy this thing. So again, this application is not going to be a tiny application, right? I realize that. I realize that I am building something here that is going to quickly become quite the monster. Even now, the size of the projects, right? 47 projects, 33 of which are application core projects, right? So these are actual projects that are being used. Teams is there, but it's not been updated in a while. So, you know, realistically, 29 actual projects right now that are all valid. Messaging, gateway, etc. These are other pieces necessary for the application. So it's not a tiny project. I will be getting to deployment at some point soon once I get planning in a good place, because I think that's something that I need to figure out. So there's a few pieces that are going to be coming in the next couple of months. Once I've got the plan right now is to get the UI in a good place enough that I've got the technologies in place that I'm happy that the planning items. So again, I'm focusing on planning items here because I'm focusing on, okay, can I add a planning item? Can I edit a planning item? Can I view a planning item? And can I use the signal stores effectively here to get that pattern going forward, right? Once I've got that in place, I start to tighten up the rest of the features around the application in terms of being able to add users, group teams, etc. And then I move to things like open telemetry. I want to put telemetry layers in there so that I can monitor usage and keep track of things. Metrics and telemetry and logging all going as a pass there. Other things that I do need and want to look at, integration testing. Right now, I've got a bunch of unit tests. They're not
exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination. And the aim would be to get a layer of integration tests. So I'm looking at things like Playwright, for end-to-end testing, etc. Seeing what that looks like. I noticed there's a big focus on this recently, especially with some of the Microsoft stuff, right? So what does Playwright do for me? What sort of testing tools do I need to be able to run integration tests against my application? And then deployment, right? What does a deployment look like, right? I'm not going to do cloud deployments on stream, not for a while, because that's not the comfort zone for me. Cloud is something I am very intimidated by, if I'm honest, because I've traditionally developed uh, um, on-prem software. It's only this last year or so that I've been working with anything that is cloud-based for the most part, and even then, I don't touch much of that. Mr. Jones, good afternoon. How are you doing? So, but yeah, if you're new to the stream, if you're just joining, um, and you're not Mr. Jones, because you're going to ask about PHP, uh, um, I'm now going for coffee. Be back later. Thanks for the look, John. Um, it's all right. You can come find me when you get to the cloud infrastructure portion. Yeah, there's a lot of Thank you. I appreciate that. It's something that I've just not spent a lot of time doing, and I need to. And I've been talking to people like Deflux, who is also a very talented person, as much of a troll as he can be. He is very talented when it comes to the cloud stuff, and well, I've had a few conversations with him about some of those things, and we kind of realize that the way I'm developing this very much right now is very much infrastructure, right? I can't necessarily move away from that infrastructure design here with the way it's built, right? If I was to use, you know, I really do want to take the time to kind of figure out a different design for learning purposes of how I would do this in a more cloud-based way, right? Rather than just using, because here I would be deploying services, or even I don't think I'd be deploying VMs, but I would be deploying services as um, components of this system. What does that look like? How does it work? There's all sorts of questions I have there. So deployment of this is going to be a major concern later on. And I want the person who I don't remember the name of the person that came in, but they came in a while ago, and they basically called me naive from the way I was building it, because I wasn't considering that cloud. And having gone through with Deflux, you know, I would sincerely like to apologize. And I realized the point that was being made now that I've looked at that other aspect and realized, okay, well, because I'm thinking of this still as a traditional application stack, I'm building it that way, right? Would I build it differently if I wanted to do a more cloud-based approach? Um, Possibly, right? If I wanted to focus on more platform level rather than infrastructure stuff, right? Um, there's a whole different set of challenges there, because with platform stuff, you can't really have these monolithic services, or mini monolithic services, as I really should refer to them. So there's so much more to come. There's so many more things to do, and this is just one aspect of the software, right, that I'm focused on right now, right? So for today's stream, for the part that I'm actually going to do some coding, um, the focus is kind of, okay, let's get these controls actually usable, right? This is broken for some reason in here. It's all laid out wrong. Um, this brings about a new challenge, because I need a different type of control that allows me not or to deselect, which I don't currently support. Um, you know, is there a control library that I should be using, right? So I was looking around yesterday at different options, and I installed Flowbyte, and I think that was a mistake. So Flowbyte does have controls, but I don't think I like the controls. So I went through this. install Flowbyte. Yeah, I did all that. I did all that. I got to this part with init Flowbyte, right? So, yeah. Now, one benefit of using something like this is the Figma design files. So I could actually download the if I paid them, but I could potentially, and if I'm building an application that I'm going to stick behind, right? If I'm building an application that I am going to say, yep, is going to be a real application, then maybe that investment is worth it. But I could use the Figma design files to then prepare the screens as best I could ahead of time, so I can get a layout and work with that. And if I do find a UI UX designer that I can work with, then they might be able to help. If I can give them access to those design files, then they can build the UI in a way that I know what I'm looking at ahead of time. So there's some definite benefits. But I was looking at this last night, and I'm not sure I like what I'm seeing. Apex, good morning. Hope you're well. How's things? Drop down divider, drop down header, drop multi-level drop down checkbox, drop background hover, helper text, drop down with radio, helper text, drop down with toggle switch, don't have that, drop down with scrolling. That's more what I need. Don't need the add. Drop down with search. That's probably more appropriate. They're just options though, right? Yeah, they're just options. Okay, so no matter which, so no matter, so I do apologize if you are not subbed, you do not have Twitch Turbo, and you are in a place that gets ads. Ads are coming in 2 minutes. I've started to run the 3 minutes of ads so I can get a full hour without ads. I'd be interested in any opinions or feedback on that, by the way. If it's something you don't mind doing, if it's something that you feel that it's better to have the minute and a half every 30 minutes. Oh, new toys arriving. So tomorrow's stream may sound different. I'm going to try a different microphone tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. New toy arriving. So I guess I'm just kind of old. Am I old? Am I stuck in my way? Do you do a getting started stream? Most folks run the 3 minutes of ads right at the start with getting started for the first. Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. I started with a 10-minute countdown and then let the ads run. So the problem is because I start early in my day, right? I end up with I don't often have much time pre-stream, so I basically hit go and start streaming. So I'm trying to make sure I hit the button and then go take the dogs out and then then run the stream. So yeah, the 3 minutes. So yeah, it's coming up on. I've been streaming for an hour. In about 22 seconds, the pre-rolls will be the ads will run, and yeah. But actually, what I'm going to do is I know that not everyone will see the ads. You're a Turbo user, so you wouldn't, Thornity. But I'm gonna take the chance to take the break. I'm gonna go get another cup of coffee. So yeah, stick with me, and when I get back, we'll we'll look at how I'm going to get a drop down working. So, thank you all. I'll be right back. Okay. I know the ads are still running, but most people that have been chatting are completely unaffected by that. So I'm going to wait a full 3 minutes. Okay. So this is bugging me, right? No matter what I do, Debussy, thank you very much for the follow. Time to get kids to school. Look, Coding Craftsman, thank you very much for the luck. I appreciate it. Howdy. How's it going? The Flowbyte library is by default powered by the data attributes interface that you can easily set up using interactive components by targeting the element story. Okay, so I can do, okay, so let's add a drop down. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to go in here and add a drop down. Then let's add those elements in there. So one of the things Junica's pointed out to me yesterday is I need to work on making more components, right? Both Tailwind and Angular, I would assume, which is definitely something I need to focus some energy on. So let's see how this goes first. It doesn't. Oh, 404, no modules flow, but it doesn't have access to the JavaScript. So I messed something up there. Node modules, low byte. Oh, that should work because it is. No, it's not. It's up a level. Either way, that's still complaining. So how do I get access to that? Do I just copy it out? Let's see. They suggested something in the Flowbyte Angular stuff. Node modules. That's fine. Oh, okay. So I shouldn't need to do that in Angular, basically, because the plugin's there. So I don't need that. Configure the template path to include the interactive Tailwind CSS classes from Flowbyte. So that is, if I go to app, no, Tailwind config. So that's this part, right? No modules, Flowbyte, *****JS. Okay. Let's make that consistent. Doesn't bug me. So if you're new to the stream, you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to ask. I'm more than happy to talk about what I'm doing. The focus of this stream is never about me necessarily getting the software completed or done or whatever. This is a project that is going to take me a long time, so I'm more than happy to talk about it as I go. The rule is just keep it on task, right? If it's criticism, you're more than welcome to criticize, but if you're going to criticize, then please be willing to, be constructive about it, right? Hey, why aren't you doing this? Because here's a good way of doing it. And I'm more than happy to divert and check out something. But let's first start by copy pasting. So Flowbyte should be initialized here. So is that, go here, new item. It's clearly not working. So in the interest of not jumping back and forth, I'm going to drag this tab over to the screen so that I don't keep, because I'm going to keep flicking back and forth to the dots. I don't want to give anyone seizures of any form, because that would be terrible. Okay, so this should be Flowbyte plugin. That's correct. Extend. So then in the web app, so in app.tier component, that's the entry point. ng on it, yeah. Init Flowbyte. Someone's actually created a library, but I'm not going to rely upon libraries based on third-party libraries. I'm not using the JavaScript API. I just want to use data attributes. The Flowbyte library is by default powered by the data attributes interface that you can use easily to set up interactive components by targeting elements directly from your template components. This example shows also show a button that on the click event will show a drop-down menu that you can easily update via Tailwind and data CSS attributes. Okay, so but in theory, what am I missing? So there's a form. This form lives here. And now I have a drop down. It's unique. drop down. There's no error happening. Right. Actually, let's make sure. Let's double check that. No. HMR updates into client. So the app is building. There's no problems with that. But I do not see a drop down. I have added init flowbyte. I do not need a JavaScript in there. I have got my Tailwind stuff in there. Now that is at the right level, right? So that's /node modules flowbyte, right? And I can validate that. Can I? Does this validate paths? No. No, it doesn't. Okay. Flowbyte plugin. So nothing's erroring. Everything's functioning. Modules, planning, forms. Data drop down. So according to them, that should be all that's necessary. I'm not spending a great deal of time doing this, messing around with flowbyte. That can go. Let's go back to here. Remove flowbyte. Config. I knew that was removed quickly. That's that. And then app ts. I do not want to spend a great deal of time trying to work with a library that, right? I could be doing something wrong. That's fine. But that's not where I need to focus my energy right now on trying to do that. What I was trying to do is get something cleaner than this in place. Because this simple select is just a Tailwind control that I've kind of built, right? This select based upon the Tailwind example, right? But it's not perfect and it's not working the way I want it to work. So, yeah. And maybe I need to design my components differently. Maybe I need to change some of that. But we'll see. Okay, so let's do that. So this is going to look funky again. So why do I... How did I style it in the planning... not the planning items. In the registration view. So in the registration view, I did do widths 2/3. At the error, okay. But that's not going to do the same thing because that's... learning my way around Tailwind is going to be so challenging. Okay, so we need a few different options here. So first I need to get this. This is going to bug me. If this doesn't line up with this, it's going to bug me. So that's got to be done. Class equals width full. So where is that coming from? Is the question. How does that... Why is this control broken out of everything else? So block width full H10. Let's see what that does. That's height, right? H10. Um, div. That's probably because that simple select also has its own styling around it. Oh yeah, look. If items. Let's remove the one nested div. Okay, so it does also I do support it. Okay. And that's label assigned user. So that is dealt with. The screen reader part is dealt with. Keeping an eye on accessibility is going to be another layer of a necessity, but be a challenge because it's going to be things that I need to learn along the way, right? So this is not the only pass of this UI, right? I'm going to build out the components here so I can get the data flowing correctly, so I can get things working. Then I'm going to do a UI UX workup, I suppose, that's either by myself or I'm going to hire someone to do it. Then rebuild the UI based upon that feedback. Do passes for testing, do passes for accessibility. So I'm going to learn a lot about application development as well, right? As much as I know, I don't know. So it's going to be quite a ride. So we need a list that allows me to deselect as well, which is going to be do we make this tool this simple select one thing to all, or do we make it a little bit more flexible? Also, it'd be nice to have a search at some point, but I am looking at using these components, application UI, lists, forms, radio groups, toggles, checkboxes, combo boxes. Let's do that. Go over here. I was already on that page. Code. Okay, so this is probably more appropriate. Let's go back here. Is that a combo box? We call that a combo box? Well, it is. Wow, view code is so much nicer. Huh. Actually, this is a perfect example of a needed for a component, right? So I want a component that I can type in a name and find the person, right? I should also be able to clear it, right? This is going to be a component in all sorts of parts of the application, right? Assigned user. So this is worth spending some time on, right? So simple with check on left. Okay, so I'm going to do it that way. The problem is the tailwind controls are not angularized, right? So what I'm doing is I'm looking at, I go to the Tailwind code. I paid for a license, so I do have access to the code. I go and get, so this is going to be, select, combo, what is this going to be called? It's a combo box with check on left. It is a combo box. Combo box selected. Let's go with that for now. Then, so the way that works is I paste the code in there, right? And it splits up the HTML and the TS, so I can now put them together. So I'm going to take that. I suppose here what I've got to consider is, do I want to create a general control or do I want to create a user dropdown? Because if I create a user dropdown, I could use the user store and hook it in. If I create a shared component, right? So if I do Angular schematic, selects combo boxes, I create a new schematic component. This is going to be what I call it, combo box selected, combo box selected, skip tests. So what I could do here is paste the markup in there. We'll worry about the actual items in a second. We go to the TS file. There's nothing much in the TS file right now. And then we go back over here. Let's just remove this for now. We don't need it. App combo box selected. Namespacing and all those sorts of fun things we'll talk about later. Let's go back over here. Back to planning items. There's our combo box. Now it's showing that automatically, so we need to go put some functionality in there. And that is, that's weird that it didn't include. Normally it includes a little bit more code. That's interesting. They didn't include that this time. I'll look at the view version. It's a little simpler to read. So they have, right. So they have if. That's why, because it's a little bit more involved. Because obviously based upon whether I'm filtering or not. V if filter people that length is greater than 0. But I don't have any. That's not the way it kind of works. It kind of works in that if I hit the arrows, right, it should be showing. So it's showing there automatically, right? But if I hit the arrows, it should interact and navigate and show the drop down. Again, we're gonna end up with the yeah. So this is SR only. This ID is gonna have to change. We're gonna have to worry about that in a second. We had all that burst of chat before, and it's quiet now. Um, so this is going to be if I'm here. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's kind of like, you know, you know how it is. If it's really active and then it goes super quiet, it's like okay. So we're gonna have active is a boolean which is false, right? Appreciate you. Thank you. So now that's not active. Doing the big look. Yeah, it's super odd feeling. Yeah, you have that sort of massive burst of conversation, and then it just goes. Whoop. You know, people getting on with the day. I get it. I'm not. I'm not upset. I'm just. Yeah. Well, he doesn't. He doesn't often talk. He just drops PHP jokes in the stream from time to time. Uh, so toggle active. So I'm gonna build this up the way I think I'm gonna build it up, right? So active this to active equals not this to active, right? So we're going to see if we can get the functionality in there. New item, right? So we've got the list showing, right? Is there much benefit in building this? I made something work. Not super happy with it. Testing like crazy because I don't want to release. I don't want to release mode. Lol. I've realized of late that I'm very much. I have a little bit. I don't know if I have a little bit too much confidence, but there's a lot of times when I'm developing something and I probably don't test it as well as I should because I trust that what I'm doing is the right thing. Like if I've written unit tests and stuff for things, then I'm like more confident that the software is just gonna work. Um, and it hasn't bitten me, so whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I'm just gonna remove all the comments because it's just driving me nuts and it's not really giving me any benefits here. So what I gotta figure out is I'm the other way. I overthink, worry too much. You're also working in an environment that is very much get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. Sounds of it, and because you've worked that way, and you know you're a professional, you care about what you do. You know that that's going to bite you, so you worry about it more. I wish I'd never seen someone actually do that, but I have. I've done it as well. So, oh, I've done it too. So, yeah, I'm debating whether I want to just make this a user selection. I probably shouldn't. I probably should feed it an items list. Input uh, public items. Can I do any array equals that? If we do that, and then we do if items. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove this div. Let's see if I can change the styling a little bit more. Let's see. Makes sense. I did just remove the items. Items equals user store dot get dot sorted users. We are when it's flipping 0 to 1. So I released when I was just a lad, when I was young. I was working on business basic systems, and my boss at the time was. When I look back, I realize how much he did for me. Right, so I really do appreciate him now with hindsight. But he had a process, right? And the process was you had to write up all the work. So I started as my first role was actually business analyst or whatever analyst I was. And basically my job was to go down to departments in the building and ask questions and identify what they actually needed and really try and figure out what changes we were making. Then I had to write it up as I understood it. And then I had to get them to sign off on it, right? So they had to read it and they had to sign off on that change. Then I had to actually write a document explaining what I would actually change in the software. My manager would have to sign off on that, right? And the irony was, in college, we were asked to do that sort of stuff, and I said, "There's no way a real business does that." My first job did it because I failed college because of that, because I wouldn't write it. I could do all the work, but I hated writing things up. And so there was a very rigorous process in place. But one day I did make a production boo boo. It got missed. My manager missed it as well. And it was a production issue. Now this is basic, right? I'm actually changing the file and if I save it, it changes and everyone's running that code right now. It's not like it compiles or it moves anywhere, right? It's like if I'm editing a PHP code site, right? I'm changing that code directly. .NET, you can't do that. It's not going to work that way. One in one line, by the way. And yeah, I had to go in and actually change the code in production as users were in the system. So I had to go on the test system, make the changes, see if I could validate it, see if I could recreate it, quickly go back to the production system, make the changes, and yeah. But now I look back on that manager, you know, that system, that process was very rigid, but it was in an environment, definitely in a CYA environment. But he did that for everyone's benefit. He did that so everyone, because this is 1999, 2000, right? This is not modern day software development, right? This is a business that had been around for 100 years. Software they developed in the 70s, I believe, 70s, early 80s. this software had been in place for a long time, and he'd been there for a long time, and he'd been developing that software, and the process was in place because people did blame all the time, so it was more to protect everybody else. But then I look back and I look at the managerial decisions he made, and I'm like, okay, I appreciate he was really helping me. Yeah, he was making sure that I was asking the right questions. So I gained a lot from that time, those 5 years working there. I gained a lot of analytical skills that maybe a developer doesn't get these days. So maybe when I'm looking at things and saying, "Hey, why aren't you asking more questions? Why don't you care about what the customer cares from?" Maybe that's just my experience showing through of just because someone tells you something is needed doesn't mean that they've asked the right questions themselves, right? So if a PM or an executive is saying, "We need this," but you understand the software, you understand how users are using the software, you understand what drives a customer to use that software, then that expertise has some being able to push back and say, well, hold on, why do we do that? Right? What is there a better option here? Right? I think that should be encouraged, and it's definitely something lacking I found in developers these days. That makes me sound very pretentious, and yeah, but for item of items track item, I like how Angular is introducing Blazor syntax, or Blazor style syntax. Okay, so now I do need that back. So the difference here is we are going to do. So I'm going to try something different here. I'm going to do import public display name string. Import. Does that mean that? Let's find out. Public ID field. Display field. ID field string. That can't be null, so I need them. That's non-nullable, right? But I'm gonna set it later. I'll learn that. I'll learn those things later. I don't know why I don't like having them standard attributes like that. So let's see if we can do this. So we need to do item display field. I don't think that's going to work. I think that's going to error. I think that's going to completely ignore me and not do anything. Can I get? How do I do that? How do I get property of object by name JavaScript? JavaScript first, TypeScript second. Get own property names. But I should be able to get the I was playing around with Avalonia this morning. Nice. How is that going? You know what? You know what's really a good idea. If you are looking at why something's not working, and then you were like, ah, well, maybe I should set that. display field is name. You have to kind of you have to kind of set the value if you're going to do it that way, right? I have much to learn. I was thinking of trying to build a generic cross-platform streamable app. Nice. Very simple at first. Also, I mean, that works. Actually, I don't need to do that. I don't need an ID field. We're going to bind a form control to it. I want to do form control equals sign user. Um, so one of the things I've taken the path of with this application stack is, and I know that some people could be watching the stream and being like, this is so complicated. This is so much to do. It's, you know, like you're never going to finish it because it's so much work. But I want to make something, right? I want to make an actual application that's going to do something. And I could have run at this and tried to build something quickly, right? I've done it with a game tracking app. I've done it with all sorts of other stuff, right? And water drink water is kind of that path. It's kind of like, oh, let's just go and explore it, keep it simple, move it forward. But I hope that what's visible in the water drink water app so far is that there are some really damaging pieces, right? That if the patterns are left unchecked, will start to become a problem later on for maintenance. So I wonder sometimes. This is just a thought. I'm not criticizing the path. I'm saying that, like, I think I would rather these days go the path of building a prototype of a specific component I want to build to validate, rather than actually trying to build the app to begin with. So if it's like, hey, I want to know, can I get a list of users? What does that look like? Go and build a list of users, right? For the experience alone, it'll be worth it. But then come back around and say, okay, well now I want to log in. How does I log in? Build the kind of pieces that you need to know to build, and then go back and rebuild the application, and use those experiences as a way to design and understand how to lay out the application and keep it maintainable and clean. And then when that builds into something that is actually good, which, like you said, a generic cross-platform streamer bot, I think that's a really solid idea. Then you've got an architecture you can grow into. And it's not over engineering, it's just making sure you understand the pieces beforehand. And because it's so easy to build something, but then we forget about the maintenance. Um, yeah, it's kind of why I'm thinking about it this way, because it's like I could have really spent a lot. I could have got something way quicker, right? In the 6 months it's taken me to get to this point, I could probably have got way more done. But yeah, it is what it is. But I'm not criticizing in any way. I'm just kind of observing that that's the way I'm thinking about software. Select item any. So I need to go to the select and look at what I did for. So I injected the provider. That's combo box selected component. We'll look at filtering afterwards. And then that has control value accessor. And after viewing it, and destroy. These are all necessary, I believe, because yeah, we're gonna do that. Oh yeah, we need to. That's okay. That's understood as well. Okay, so we're implementing them. We need ng on destroy. Need ng after viewing it, and we then need to implement that interface. Yeah. Does anyone else do that? You go and copy something, and then you go to clean up after it, and you actually copy inadvertently the blank space that you're cutting out because yeah, because you do Control X instead of delete. Or is that just me? So right value. So we need those events. Seeing a pattern here. Why there isn't a form control, I don't know, but maybe there is. We do need to do that as well. This don't listen. Yeah, that's that. So this is so that we can click out of the box and close it. Yes, but in Visual Studio you can use Control Shift V. Nice keyboard shortcut, thank you. Mr. Anhorn, good morning. What's the same in Rider? That's Control Shift V in Rider. We need a constructor. 11:50. I'm trying to win the lottery. Just had a spicy take that I agree with. The complexity of TypeScript JavaScript creates jobs where you need one .NET dev to do the work of three. Oh dear. If there's something like that in code, you could also use the Windows clipboard to see history, but I wouldn't use that on stream since it's all clipboard stuff, including if you copy any keys or passwords. Yeah, I'm not a big power user in that respect, so yeah. TypeScript JavaScript creates jobs. Yeah, I'm not. I'm definitely not a power user in that respect. Active, if active, toggle active. So that should give me, oh, method not implemented, register on change. That's just the wire up of them. Register on touch, register on change. It's just them. This dot is disabled equals is disabled. And that is this on change. We'll worry about that in a second. Toggle select. That. I'm going to take that JSTS line and tell our JS developers how to make yourself popular with your coworkers. It's helped me not to go back to the source and recopy cut. Yeah, I just control Z until I get back, right? So, well, you saw me do that, but worry about the selected value in a second. So we need to do that, and then toggle active, and then in there, I'm doing if value this dot selected. Okay, so we'll worry about that in a second. So the problem there is I don't have. I mean, I need to select the item in some way, shape, or form. So yeah. I finished using Azure Entra B2C using just the OpenID spec, so any OpenID connector should work. Alright. What's Entra? Customer identity. Nice. You do all the complicated, cool stuff. And make it look easy. It's rebranded Azure Active Directory. Nice. Okay, so that's value. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to create this combo bots, right? And then what I would like to do is kind of inherit from this and use the user store. But I don't think I'll work on that. I don't think I'll focus on that primarily. That's a down the line cleanup thing, right? So for now, what I'm trying to do is say, okay, well, when I do the drop down, right? I need that to work, so I need that to go away. So why aren't you going away? We need unlisten. Unlisten. No, we've got unlisten. Why aren't you highlighted? Oh, we need the ng on destroy as well. Oh. That's kind of the wrong direction there, isn't it? It's not unlisten. What did I do? This not unlisten. So what you're doing is you're getting a handle to this listener for the renderer, right? And then that's saying, hey, if you click anywhere outside of the component we're in, then toggle the active. But then when we destroy it, actually do the unlisten so that we don't have leaked events happening everywhere. So this should now, we click out the control, it closes, right? That's a usability thing. So I apologize that the stream hasn't been quite productive, but I think it's okay. Why Why? Why is that all the way over there? Why is the formatting deciding that that's valid? Okay. So this one is if selected equals item. So I suppose I can do this, can't I? Because I can just do. Because I can just do an on click on this and select the current item. So okay, I can do it without. I don't need ID field necessarily because I can just select the current item. Um, oh, but I do need ID field. We'll worry about it afterwards. Okay, so click equals select selected. Select item. So now we need selected. But selected is any equals null. So selected item this dot selected equals item. On changes this selected if value. What am I doing there? What am I actually writing there? Oh, because this who are you? Wow. We're joining the stream with a song. Okay, Defaults, good morning. I will not attempt to sing that, even though my brain, as soon as I actually registered what it was. I wanted to break into CSI theme tune. Yep. I know it's the Who. I know that it's not from CSI, but I just played back the intro of the original CSI in my head as reading that. Yeah. Okay. So this will actually, I assume that the form value. So the problem is the value is going to be ID. So I do want selected to be the ID. So this the ID field, right? Dear. So we do want, so I think what I did before is I brought selected as item as the ID and current as the current item. And I think that's a mistake, but let's the problem is it's kind of, let's see if this was item this ID field, right? Because this is built for not only this UI side is built for the form control being set. So if I load the form, then this will also write value first. So I want to test to see if that's the case. So this on change, it will fire the on change. Which is just that event. Oh no, I do need it. It's not I'm being dense. So that will fire the ID field off onto onChange. OnChange is the subscriber from the form control side of things, right? So that'll set that ID. Now this is when I'm actually configuring it. So if value, then this selected equals this.items.find, f goes to f ID field equals value, this.id field. So again, I'm trying to genericize it a little bit, I suppose. So this is now an ID, is it? This selected equals item. No, it's an any. Oh, I made it private. I should have made it private. I should have made it public. One day I will either start writing idiomatic TypeScript, or I will at least be consistent in how I write the TypeScript I do write. So the problem there was, again, I'm like all over the place. How do we deal with disabled over here? Disabled. I don't. Okay. Let's worry about that afterwards. New item. Oh, defaults, by the way, you are immortalized in my code. Or at least the data. Okay, so that's generally working, bar some horrible. So obviously there's some CSS problems there in that I've got no highlight or hover. So let's have a look at the original. I closed it. No, I didn't. Okay. There is a hover. And then we'll worry about the filtering. As the drop, I get some work things started. Thanks for the stream. Apex, thank you very much for coming and hanging out. Take care. How is the hover? Shouldn't the hover okay. Am I focusing on the wrong things? I have no idea. UL. So this has to be hover. What is the background going to be there? So we're coming up on the end of this stream. But you know, if anyone's in the stream and has questions, thoughts, opinions, you know, you're more than welcome to ask. You are more than welcome also to join the Discord and follow up after stream with anything you want to know. This project is not open source, but it is something I'm willing to talk about. I'm willing to kind of demonstrate and show the things I'm doing. So what am I doing? Where am I going? Yeah, that's where I'm going. Okay, so actually I have a doubt, but it's related with Podman containers. Podman containers. How so? Being that I'm not using Podman, I am going to assume there's not a doubt with my software, but yeah. Rostone, hello. Good day. Tenants. So you're joining me right before the end of the stream, but I did say that. So the tenancy stuff. So um, no worries. Yeah, if you want to go into tenant stuff, tomorrow would actually be a good day because I am going to stream for longer tomorrow. So if you're around tomorrow at all, you're more than welcome to kind of ask, and we can do a bit of a quick diversion into what tenancy looks like. Just wanting to run rootless container, and I'm not able to. What do you mean by rootless container? Am I non-root user? Right, to protect the system. And Podman. Yeah. Yeah. So Rotstone classes. Oh, here. This is Tailwind. Tailwind CSS I'm using. No worries, Devusi. So I don't. The only time I've actually used Podman is actually on my work PC, a work machine. It's a Mac. Well, it'll be minimum of 3 hours deflux, but probably more like 4 to 5 hours. Knowing me. Um, the So in this machine, I do use Docker extensively, but I'm the what is it called, even 24, because my marriage and my child, my dogs, all those things, the things that kind of used to at this point, and I would not like them to go away. 23. Tell you what, we'll do it. We'll do the longest stream we can possibly attain without getting in trouble tomorrow. But I mean, there's plenty of. I mean, looking around, obviously, there's plenty of. Yeah. There are resources looking around because I wasn't sure what rootless meant because I've pretty much always installed it. As I learned yesterday, my work machine is not as locked down as I would have hoped. I got to I clicked on a Google link that was diverted and learned that my work machine is not as controlled. But I mean, looking around in terms of rootless, there's plenty of. I found plenty of stuff straight away. But I'm assuming you've gone through most of that already, because I mean, you don't. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'll share the Docker one and the Podman one. Again, I'm not often in a situation where I have to worry about that sort of thing. So I'm heavily relying upon Docker for application development here, right? I've got SQL Server running, Kafka's running, Console is running. These are core components of my application stack here. Um, yeah. What was I trying to do? Yeah. Rotstone. Um, Tailwind is what I'm using for the UI right now. Which I am going to figure out. If I have any more windows open on my actual machine, I will actually go crazy. Seems fancy. I was bootstrapping. Yeah, bootstrap is something that we used for the longest time, but it's not something that yeah. Thanks, Debussy. So what we're going with right now is this. The idea here, this data. I'm experimenting with using new components to me. Right, client side is not my thing. So over the last 6 months, I built up this application stack behind the scenes, and now it's time to kind of put UI on this. The application in general is it's meant to be a agile project management platform. So story planning and ticketing and the whole shebang through there. I am building it as a real product. My goal is to make it a real product, not to make it just a side project. It will be a side project because I like employment too. But over the next 6 to 8 months, I hope to be able to get the planning component somewhere where we can actually I can actually share that and get that tested. But the client side is not my comfort zone, so I'm experimenting with technologies I haven't played with. So I'm using NGRX signalStores right now for loading this data in. So we've been doing experiments there the last couple of days, and right now I'm building this control, right? So this combo bots control, going to figure out the styling and stuff, because if I can get some of these patterns down on this screen, I can get the data flow, I can get data updating and whatnot and displaying. Then I've got those patterns to use going forward. If I just try and bundle through the application and add as much functionality in as quickly as I can, I'm going to leave a trail of destruction in my wake, and I want to kind of tighten that up before I move further forward. Steps out of the shadows where he's been lurking a while, whispers goodbye to the last meeting, turns over and waves to everyone and says hi. Hi, Kenny. How you doing? Good day. So, yeah, I want to get that hover in there, but so what I'm looking for is actually I'm looking for I'm looking at this, right? They provide React and Vue code, but not Angular. Finally, my Thursday is over. You got good progress done. Relatively good progress. Still going. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go for a BBB full day, but still going. I do have to finish shortly, but so I actually paid for Tailwind UI components, so I do have access to all this. But for the Angular component, they don't do Angular components. So what I have to do is I have to take this, paste it into Twing, which is a nice application built by someone, which again I think did I pay for? I just signed up for. I can't remember. I have a subscription to it. Either way, I can paste that code in here, and it will give me the code broken out into the code and the HTML. So at least I get the structure. So that's kind of what I do, and then I have to go and add all the functionality in. But looking at the available libraries for Tailwind, they all pretty much follow the same path, or like the one we saw before just wasn't working, and I wasn't willing to spend the time. So I'd rather do this and have more control over what I'm doing and get used to the patterns as well. But what I'm looking for right now is, where's the hover? So if I go back to the preview here, there's a clear hover here, right? There's no hover in that style. But there has to be a hover. What? Not active. Active. Okay, so active. That doesn't work that way. That does not work that way. Yeah. Hover. Planning, new item, drop down. That's better. So color schemes, all those sorts of things. I've kind of tried to align to a general color scheme right now just to get the idea in. Junicus has mentioned theming and stuff before, which is something that I'll want to do. My overall goal is when I start to build the actual items, so when I have planning, stories, and tickets, then I'll be able to click up here, select the actual piece of the software I'm using, and the entire color scheme will be different based upon what you're doing. So you'll be able to see at a glance that you're in the ticketing system or the planning system or the story system beyond the menus changing. Okay, so last thing, text here. So we want G model. No, just it's that one, right? Equals selected display field. Is it that one? That one? No, I just need text, don't I? Oh, value. Delwyn is with the CDN. Yeah, you can use CDN for it. You can download the CSS library as well, separate, I think. Oh, cannot read properties. So that's because selected not equal to null, else that. Oh, there you go. Okay, so but else label. Yeah, label. I want label. Items input public label string. And then over here we're going to do label equals assigned user. Helen. So there we go. So we can select that, and also if let's just test one more thing before we do that. So I should be able to do assigned user.value. It's so amazing. Don't know C# or SQLite or Angular, but it's cool being here. Thank you. I appreciate that. There we go. So our users being selected, right? That's what we're proving there. So now that's tied into the form control. So if I add that in, when I hit create, it will be assigned to that user. That's the goal. So the next part of that would be to allow uncheck. Get the styling under control, because that's going to bug me. I need to fix that before I move forward. But it is bound to the form control, which is good. Yeah. So some progress made there. Not what I wanted to be doing all the time, right? I get that looking at UI and doing this sort of stuff, it might not be the most exciting. There's a whole lot more code in the background here. So if you're interested in application development in general, then there's a whole lot more to see. And I need to start looking at the camera. So I was looking at just a slight diversion there. I was looking at one of my VODs. I was looking at my VOD yesterday because I actually took a clip to make a short. And I realized that I spend a lot of time looking down. Now, the prompter wasn't working yesterday, so I'm going to blame that a little bit. But I do need to start making sure I look more at the camera and not looking down at because I'm just like that. And you don't need to see the top of my head. And if I'm talking, yeah, Yeah. So with the prompter there, it's actually making me a lot more. But yesterday it wasn't working, so I didn't see anything. Well, Twitch wasn't connecting yesterday, and make a mask of yourself and glue it to your head. Yeah, yeah. Look like some strange Doctor Who villain sort of thing. Um, but yeah, if you're interested in application development, obviously this is a little heavy. On Mondays and Tuesdays, I do a lighter project that is more aimed at beginners. Not beginner like you've never written a line of code, but beginners and you're starting to get you're starting to learn more about application development and you want to do a bit more and tinker. Maybe you're working on the UI, maybe you're working on the back end, etc. But it's still C# based. The client right now that we're working on is Blazor, but the application is built so that we can potentially have, any number of clients. So that project again we'll be working on Monday. DVD friends, water, drink water. That project is there, and that code is all available, right? It's not a great example of an application at this point, but it's meant for discussion on the stream. It's not meant for, hey, look, here's how to develop an application. And it's meant for you to be able to contribute to if you want to. So that is more interactive and friendly. This application is a little bit more intimidating. I can see how this application doesn't make a lot of sense if you're looking at it for the first time. But I appreciate people coming in and hang around and you'll see more. Also, all the content is up on YouTube. So if you want to catch up on past development, if you want to go back and look, I do stream to YouTube and Twitch at the same time, and you are able to go back and watch any past streams for the past several months there and catch up on where we are with this. And I generally try and do a pretty good job of organizing those pieces. But yeah, that is going to be it for today. Let's see who we can raid out to. Anyone have any suggestions? I try and look for application developers first, and then I will go to other developers. But yeah, it is that time. That's White Panther is streaming. That's been a while. She is an awesome developer with an awesome community, so maybe we'll just jump over there. Not quite on what I'm doing, but she's also, yeah. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for the conversation. We had some really good conversations to begin the stream today, which was kind of crazy. Conan Craftsman, thank you very much for being part of that conversation as well. Thank you for your time. And yeah, let's go raid White Panther. And I will be back tomorrow. We'll be doing a longer stream tomorrow because I have the day off work. And yeah. So I will see you all again soon, I hope. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.